Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's coverage, we're going to continue our look at the ongoing situation, the ongoing crisis between the Russian Federation, Ukraine, NATO, and the West. And I got to tell you, the rhetoric coming out of what you would call the mainstream media, or in certain cases, the not so mainstream media, you would think that a conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a foregone conclusion, that it is going to absolutely happen. So I'm going to start by looking at some of these current headlines and just really getting a view around the world of what this looks like right now. And again, I've been doing this daily. So NBC News, if Russia attacks Ukraine, here's how it might unfold. TASS, U.S. NATO ramp up weapons deliveries to Ukraine, contrary to escalating situation, slash diplomat. And that's from TASS. Let's see here. New Statesman, crisis at Russian borders. A new Czech prime minister signals West, and Trump holds on the ... I don't know how that even got in there, but that's kind of irrelevant. Let's see. What else do we have here? Arutz Shiva, it's an Israeli media outlet. Russia threatens to deploy military to Cuba and Venezuela in response to tensions with the U.S. American security. No progress seen after Russia-U.S. talks over Ukraine tensions. RT, Russia Today. Despite American threats, Russia says it will continue military exercises near Ukrainian border. New York Post. Europe at greatest risk of war in 30 years, Poland warns. Business Insider. Russia could use failed talks with U.S. and NATO as pretext for invading Ukraine, experts and ... And it just kind of goes on. Yeah, it just... I mean, if you look at these news reports, it really doesn't look good in terms of either side backing away. Here's one. Timothy Ash, the Kiev Independent. Kiev Ash, Putin is preparing for war. And that was like within the last 4 hours. I'm actually going into this article to see what it says. And yeah, same thing. I mean, it really just kind of goes over the demands by Moscow, by Kremlin, by Vladimir Putin in terms of backing away from any possibility that Ukraine join NATO, which doesn't appear that the United States, it doesn't appear the West, it doesn't appear NATO is going to acquiesce to that. I would have thought possibly that would be one demand that they would give Putin a guarantee on. And I mean, if you look at the NATO charter, because of the situation that Ukraine is in with the eastern areas, be it they are either Russian or not Russian. Ukraine is an active conflict. So according to the NATO charter, it would not be able to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But again, rules are made to be broken, right? So I don't know. And then obviously the other demands are the rollback of former either Warsaw Bloc nations such as Poland, Romania, having a reduction and or the removal of NATO forces from those countries. Again, I would say that would be highly unlikely, especially with Aegis Ashore in Romania, which is also designed to defend Western Europe against any ballistic missile attack coming from the Middle East, such as Iran or other nation states as well. And then obviously the Baltic states, which again I believe was just an incredible strategic error in not looking forward. Right, when Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania were accepted into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Russia was seen as this decrepit nation that really was having great difficulties and was not seen as any sort of threat, and was really kind of at the time beholden to Western money flowing into Russia. And now, obviously, where we sit today, that has changed, and now the current government that sits in the Kremlin sees that as a humiliation. And just like we saw certain aspects of the Versailles Treaty that ended World War I, and some of the what you would call the from the perception of the Germans, the draconian measures that were taken against Germany post World War I, which led to World War II eventually. And again, I would say that with the ending of the Cold War, with the Russians, the Soviet Union, on the losing side of the Cold War, their empire collapsed, and we saw. I guess you could say they are draconian measures from the viewpoint, from the perception of the Russians in terms of the Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, the Baltics, joining NATO. And there was obviously even inroads for a time on the possibility of Belarus joining NATO. And again, if Lukashenko would have been removed from power in Belarus during its recent uprisings, then quite possibly we could have seen that happen. Obviously, Belarus would become closer to the West. And again, if you harken back to the 80s and the Cold War, the concept of any of these nations, be it Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltics, becoming part of NATO or a European Union, was something that was just it would have just seemed insane, something very, very unlikely that wouldn't have even come up in a conversation. Again, because these were originally parts of the former Soviet Union. Well, now, Russia is in a bit different position than when it was in the late 90s, very early 2000s. And it's the situation right now that was created, quite possibly without any thought of the future, is the situation we're now in. And again, those decisions could come back to haunt NATO. But again, right now, just in terms of the rhetoric coming out of the both sides, both camps, and the media information that is coming out, you would think that we'll see a fairly high-intensity conflict in Europe again fairly soon. Have a good day, everybody.